preserve freedom of speech by canceling it. We preserve free speech by...
In a cramped van in Moscow, a man sits in silence as security officers close in. "Do you know what happened?" one of them asks. "Yes," he replies quietly. He already understands what is coming. A moment later, his phone is seized, his hands are cuffed, and his life as he knew it is over. It looks like a scene from a spy thriller, but this is real. The man is Arseniy Konovalov, a former Russian diplomat once trusted with state secrets and posted to the United States. Russian security services say Konovalov wasn't just a career official. They accuse him of something far more explosive, selling classified information to US intelligence for money while serving abroad. According to investigators, during a long-term posting in the United States, he proactively passed secret material to American spies. Konovalov served as second secretary at the Russian Consulate General in Houston, working in the US between 2014 and 2017. Unconfirmed reports on Russian Telegram channels claim he was recruited by the CIA during his time in Texas, though authorities have never named the specific agency involved. What information he allegedly handed over has not been publicly revealed. He was arrested in March 2024 by Russia's Federal Security Service, the FSB, the main successor to the Soviet-era KGB. Only now has his case been fully exposed. A Moscow court has sentenced him to 12 years in a maximum security penal colony after finding him guilty of high treason. As is typical in Russia, the entire process unfolded behind closed doors. Treason cases are usually classified, with almost no information released until the verdict is final. This year alone, several defendants have received extremely harsh sentences, and there have been no acquittals in such cases. The video of Konovalov's detention, released by state media, shows him stunned, almost frozen, as officers explain he is suspected of betraying his country. There is no shouting, no struggle, just a quiet, crushing realization. Whatever he did or is accused of doing will now define the rest of his life. While this drama plays out in Moscow, another battle is raging in the information space in Washington. Just days ago, a Western media outlet reported that according to US intelligence, Vladimir Putin's territorial ambitions remain unchanged. The report claimed Moscow still aims to occupy more Ukrainian land and poses a long-term threat to Europe. America's top intelligence officer, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, exploded at that story. From her official social media account, she blasted the report as lies and propaganda pushed by warmongers who want to undermine President Donald Trump's peace efforts. Then, on her personal account, she doubled down. Gabbard argued that Russia simply does not have the capability to conquer and occupy Ukraine, let alone invade Europe. She said US intelligence does not support the narrative being pushed by some European and NATO leaders that Moscow is preparing to roll across the continent. In her words, deep state warmongers and parts of the Western media are spreading these claims to keep the war going. According to Gabbard, every time Trump's team edges closer to a peace deal to end the Russia-Ukraine war, the same pattern unfolds. Insiders within the system, she says, weaponize intelligence, leak selective information to friendly media outlets, and push fear and hysteria. The goal, in her view, to derail negotiations and justify continued conflict. Speaking at a Turning Point USA event, Gabbard accused EU and NATO leaders of nudging the United States toward a direct confrontation with Russia. She warned that powerful interests are actively working to block talks, sabotage Trump's push for a settlement, and drag America deeper into the war. "We cannot allow this to happen," she told the crowd. Gabbard's message is grounded in her own military background. She has served in the US Army for nearly 22 years, with deployments to the Middle East and East Africa as part of missions targeting extremist groups like Al-Qaeda. She recalls serving in a medical unit north of Baghdad in 2005, treating the wounded and seeing the human cost of war up close. At the gate of her base in Iraq, she remembers a sign that troops saw every time they rolled out on patrol. Is today the day? For her, that question captures the brutal reality of combat and why she now insists that leaders must do everything possible to avoid sleepwalking into yet another catastrophic conflict. So on one side, there is a former Russian diplomat facing 12 years behind bars for allegedly helping U.S. intelligence. On the other, the current U.S. intelligence chief publicly accusing elements of her own world, the so-called deep state and media allies, of twisting intelligence to prolong war. Both stories revolve around secrets, power, and trust. They show how, from Moscow to Washington, the struggle over information and narrative can be just as fierce as any battle on the ground, and how the lives of individuals, whether a low-key diplomat in a van or a decorated soldier on a stage, get pulled into the center of that storm.